My life different, my pipe different, my fight different, my time different, my mind different, my grind different.
It's your boy Crypto Magnet. Come to you guys with a quick crypto update. Before we get into it, hit that like and subscribe button and join us on the journey to 10,000 subscribers. Again, none of this is financial advice, just your boy's personal opinion. And if you're new to cryptos and you're looking for a community to join, head up to our Patreon where we have 3 tiers. 5, 10, and 25. If you're looking to know which top cryptos to join and which ones to avoid, head over to our Patreon.
So, I guess before any of this, I have to say that I am a financial advisor, right? That being said, anything that I say in regards to cryptocurrency is for informational purposes only and is not financial advice.
Yeah.
It's very important to understand. Anything in regards to stock exchange securities, insurance products is absolutely can be taken as financial advice and have help with any of that. But very important to understand for the whole group. Any cryptocurrency conversation is strictly informational purposes only. Take it as you will.
Perfect. And what got you into this space? Tell us a little bit about your background and your history, just a person.
So I've been in consulting a long time. I really got an opportunity from a very close friend of mine I've been friends with for about 16 years now. It showed me a really cool way to build a career and do some things that I already went to college for. I had a school background. Real estate investment analysis is what I went to school for, so it's pretty easy there. Transition into securities, and I love money. I love investing. I like being around it. I think it's just the flow of money and the way that the economy works is so cool. It's just really something I'm passionate about. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see people grow. It's a lot of fun to see people become wealthy, understand what is really happening in our day-to-day world and how that affects their wallet, their pocket. I love being the conduit for that.
And with your background, educating people, building wealth, and now this hot topic around the cryptocurrency space. Again, none of this is financial advice for me.
No, very informational.
Very informational, and I am not a financial advisor, so that's why we brought someone on. Because last week, a couple weeks ago, we had a conversation, and the broad conversation or introductory of getting into the cryptocurrency space, many people enter the space where they think we're going to hit 1 cent and we're going to all be millionaires. We're going to hit $1 or whatever, a defined goal of a number. But there's more than just that avenue of building wealth. And when we were having that conversation, I was going through my own transformation of learning into the space. Like, what other ways is there out there? I've heard about the staking, the farming, and all those different yields, but I didn't really understand the mechanism until you introduced me to Thor Financial, and then I started to do my own, research on what that actually is and how do we actually provide to this overlap of new technology. It's going to be happening in the back end. And in the world of decentralization, how do we actually partake in it? And so once I was able to understand what a node is, nodes as a service, how to basically build companies that are able to leverage your investment and give you your dividends through the multiple protocols and ways that they actually do so. So in what ways would you advise a person who's curious of building wealth, because you come with a background of building it in a traditional way, and you also have had some experience in the untraditional way? What would you say to that defined person? Because people right now in this ecosystem of building their wealth, many people are going through the route of, well, stocks, they may not be the option for anymore. I just saw Amazon just dropped $260 billion in one day. That's a big deal. What's happening in the market where, yes, there's the winter crypto crash, but what's happening off season? But what's actually happening in a traditional season that's happening continuously, and we're supposed to trust the system's still working and not bat an eye to when something else is working in a more of a favor to the everyday user.
So let's start with the fundamentals, the basics. How does someone build a portfolio, and what does it mean to create different avenues of wealth? So if you start from the very beginning, you realize that very quickly there is no silver bullet, right? If you get a platform on something like Robinhood, right, or Coinbase, or whatever particular trading platform you prefer in an investment space, whatever stock you pick is not the stock more than likely that's going to make you rich. That's generally not how it works. You don't just do one thing, and that one thing is the reason you become this big, tycoon of sorts. In reality, what happens is usually you get set on a path, and that path forks into a lot of different avenues. It's exactly the same way when it comes to your investments. You want to make sure you have multiple buckets that do different things. So if we were just to start from a very basic concept, currently the U.S. tax rate is lower than it's ever been in history. Okay? So at current rates, it's about 37%. When they started the deferred investment programs through companies, now they're called 401ks, right, or the IRA systems, current tax rates at that time were right around 70%. That was the highest tax rate. So it made sense at that point to say, hey, I don't want to pay taxes on this money. I want to defer my taxes until the tax rates go down, and then I pull it out. So how would that work? An example. I worked for Xcel Energy for 40 years, and when I first started, the tax rate was 70%. And when I retired, the tax rate was 37%. So if that's the case, and I start retiring now, I'm a genius, because I just saved this huge bucket of money from a tax standpoint that I would never have even been able to spend. So when it comes to your investments, it's really about spendable dollars. It's about the amount of money you can use, not the amount of money you have in the bucket. Because there are certain demons that are coming to take that away from you, right? And that's not in your control. But what you can control is you can control when you decide to take that money. So what we do is we create multiple buckets that do different things. So here's an example. I create a bucket where I defer my taxes in a high tax environment because I don't want to pay taxes on my retirement funds. Problem with that is I can't touch that money until 59 and a half, right? So I'm tying that money up. That's a long-term savings bucket. In the shorter term, though, maybe I want some money that's a little bit more liquid. Right now, I'm not going to get the tax deferral, but I am going to have the opportunity to get my hands on it and grow it at the same time. Maybe also I create a bucket that is not allocated to the stock market in any way. And that money is completely tax-free when I pull it out. It's non-reportable to the government, so they don't even know that I'm grabbing it. So again, let's say that the stock market is not doing very well. Stock markets, maybe it's crashing, right? Down 15, 20 points. Well, I don't want to pull money out of my stock market assets because I'm selling when the market is low, right? You want to buy when the market is low and sell when the market is high. So if the market is low, I don't want to sell those assets and pull those out. I want to pull from another bucket that is not tied to the stock market and then wait for those assets to go back up. So what we want to do is create an ecosystem, right, of funds that put us in a position that no matter what's happening from a geopolitical standpoint, from an economic or a tax standpoint, it doesn't put us in a position where we're scrambling trying to figure out how we're going to get money or how we're going to use our money or invest our money. So we want to make sure that we are diversifying our opportunities and also diversifying our liquidity, right? Can we get our hands on any of this money? Because I think one of the biggest mistakes right now when it comes to creating wealth, when it comes to people saving money, is they're tying their money up. You put your money into one of these, into a 401k or an IRA, because you think you're getting the tax deferral, but what really happens is you tie your money up for 30 years. You have to pay to get your own money. And you can take loans against it. People say that to me all the time. Oh, well, I can get a loan on my 401k. And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. But you got to pay taxes on that. You also have to pay that money back, usually within 5 years, with after-tax dollars. So is it really you freely getting money out as a loan? Generally, it is not. So from a standpoint of creating diversity in our portfolio, that means understanding that there are different pieces to this puzzle, and you're going to have to educate yourself on all of them. Because if you don't, you're going to miss something, right? And I think it's really interesting that we had that conversation just a couple weeks ago, because we're constantly educating each other on things that we don't know. We've said this, I know, 20 times. You don't know what you don't know, right? And it's generally not the things that you don't know that hurt you. It's generally the things that you know for sure that aren't true. Those are the things that hurt you. So when it comes to building that diverse portfolio, we want to make sure we're looking at all the options. We want to make sure we understand all the options, how they're taxed, how they're liquid, how they're growing, so that we understand how they work together. That's the long version of that answer.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to understand the fundamentals of what is investing, right? What is the purpose of us doing this? In the cryptocurrency space, it's offering an interesting alternative to other buckets. It's not the end all be all, right? Because obviously we're in some pretty down months in a lot of these cryptocurrency coins, and people are freaking out. Like, oh, well, I thought I was going to invest in crypto and then I was going to be rich and I wasn't going to have to work anymore. And it's like, well, that's because you were thinking it was a silver bullet. You were thinking it was going to solve all your problems. It's a lottery ticket. That's not how it works, right? That's not how you become wealthy. You have to educate yourself. You have to understand how everything works together to make sure that you're putting money where it needs to be right now, not yesterday and not tomorrow.
And definitely doing your research on the utility of that project. Many people enter the space of how the viralness of Dogecoin, 𝙁𝙤𝙧, the next 𝙁𝙁𝙧, whatever crazy name is next. And as a YouTuber who's made a lot of those videos, me making fun of myself, it gets tiresome because everyone's talking and looking to bring something to the ecosystem, a revolutionary deflationary token, but they actually never talk about the value of how it can be in the real world. I mean, it's just how this transferable value is into this idea. But the one thing I've learned in the cryptocurrency space, a lot of those ideas are just like startups, which is another version of a startup, and the ways that we're able to have our say in the business is we get these tokens back. The one thing I love about the introductory of cryptocurrency space is giving the everyday user that they wouldn't traditionally have access to assets, to create an asset, to create capital, to be a part of a capital of an ecosystem that we speak of, that when they jump in, there's a native token. They invest into this project. This project will maybe dropping their own blockchain, their own wallet, whatever they're doing. You like the concept and you see the value of it, because the value of how you got introduced to the cryptocurrency space, you may have had to jump into a Coinbase or a Trust Wallet or a MetaMask, and not understanding that system, but then learning that those systems didn't have sometimes their own native coin that gains value of that platform, the more users that come into it, and again, so on and so on. But many people invest into these meme coins with hype, and that hype is based off real life utility that they get from other projects that actually provide that. How would you advise a person to do in what ways of avenues of research and resources out there? Not everyone knows the resource of actually Rug Doc, these different platforms. Is there like a one-all stop that you would recommend to a person to even do that? Or
I don't know if there is a one-all stop. I would say that before you make any investment, let's just say it's even in a car, right? Let's say you go to buy a car, because a car is an investment, right? When you go to buy a car, you just show up at the lot with cash in hand and say, give me that one. That's generally not what happens, right? Not because you like the color, right? You want to understand what kind of car it is. You want to understand what kind of engine it is. How does it run? What are the reviews, right? Are we reading up on what's actually happening? So let's say it's one of these startup programs like we were talking about before. Generally, each particular company is going to give you some insight into what the company is like, who they are, right? Are they docs? Do you know who they are? And if you don't, that's probably something you should be aware of, right? Why wouldn't they want you to know? There have been a lot of scams out there, and there's going to continue to be a lot of scams. So knowing who it is you're investing your money with is a big deal. I think that's why a lot of people are much safer in those conventional spaces, because you know who JP Morgan is, right? You know who BlackRock are. You know who these people are. And that's really helpful because regardless of what your rates of return are, you know that they're not going to rug pull you. That's a big deal. That's safety factor. So when it comes to any of these investments that we're talking about, you want to make sure, I wouldn't say investments, I would say any of the projects that we're talking about, you have to do 15, 20 hours of research into these companies before you're really prepared to put your money into something that you don't know anything about. Like, that's really what it is. A lot of times I see people get really excited about something because it sounds too good to be true, right? And some of them are great, and some of them have created a lot of wealth. But that doesn't mean the one that you're going to invest in you don't know anything about is one of those companies. So you want to make sure that your due diligence that you're doing is really putting you in a position where the value is on your end, right? It's not just on their end. So a couple of things you would want to make sure you're knowing. You're putting your money in, right? What is your rate of return time horizon? When are you planning on getting your money back out of that asset? That's a big question, right? Number one question, I think. Number two, when you get your money out, is that money taxed or penalized in some way? Is there a time horizon that company wants to hold on to your money before you get your return on investment, whether it's in a coin or whether it's in one of these project protocols that we were talking about before? When you pull that money out, what particular blockchain protocol do you have to go through to move that money? And how much are they going to charge you? Right? So now you finally get it to a place in your wallet where you can spend it or you can move it into cash. How much is that company going to charge you to move it into a cash asset? So usually what happens is you think you have this big bucket like we were talking about before, but in reality, they cut a little bit here, and cut a little bit here, and they cut a little bit here, and all of a sudden you end up with this. This is really the number. You need to know that number before you invest in this project, because maybe the next project or the project behind you has got a little bit better, right? Now maybe it takes you a little bit longer to get your money back, but maybe it doesn't matter because the tax rates are so much lower that you make it more down the road. If you don't know that, then what you're doing is you're gambling, right? You're walking into a casino, you're putting it on black, you're going like this, and that's not investing, right? That's not a premium, proper way to put your money in a place where it can grow for you and create a lifestyle that you're looking for. That's not what you do. You want to make sure. I had a friend of mine who is in real estate. He told me that due diligence is just another phrase for how can I drop the price, right? And when I think about that, I think, how can I add value to myself through my due diligence? Right? What is my due diligence teaching me that's putting money in my pocket? If your due diligence is not putting money in your pocket, if what you're learning is going to pay somebody else more money, they get the better end of the deal, maybe it's not a project for you.
And to go back to what you were saying on the exchange, as I've been taking some dividends out, yes, I'm going from one blockchain, a Phantom, and my partner's like, so, because I'm like, all right, give me 2 days and it'll be deposited.
Yep.
And why is Binance taking so long? It's already been withdrawal on Monday. You really don't know when it's actually supposed to come.
That's right.
Binance doesn't have the sale, 24 hours to 48 hours. Your deposit is going to know. You get a thumbs up in the blockchain transaction fee, and it typically comes in 1 day, sometimes 2. I'm learning this as if you do it on the weekend, you better cash out before Thursday, because you get it on Friday, you won't see it until Monday or potentially that Wednesday. Sure. As I'm learning.
Getting on a schedule for that is really important also. Understanding your schedules. Yeah. That is huge when it comes to these things.
Because we sometimes, in a traditional world, we have a schedule. We get paid every 2 weeks. And then let's say we want to create another system where we get paid on our off weeks. Someone can structure whatever ways and protocols they invest in, but knowing that they would have to do a withdrawal on a Wednesday to give it a day to 2 for them to actually have that same system. He's set to be, I'm getting paid every Friday, whatever that case is. And so the transfer of the wealth that we're saying, like I got mine and I got one, prime example. I cashed out last week on one of my Ethereum projects. Just like 30% of it, great. All right, well I cashed out and I had to pay that Ethereum gas fee. That was on Trust Wallet, $180, cool. Well, it's in Ethereum now. And you really can't just sell it on Trust Wallet. And you have to actually transfer it to a wallet where you can then sell it. Now I got to pay another fee. I'm paying another $180 to send it to my Binance wallet. Then I can sell it into USD. And then when I sell it and then withdraw into my bank account, there's another fee that there's happening. In a fee system, people who are coming through from the traditional, they're, they think of taxes. It's only a couple cents, a couple dollars, $4, $3. And in this crypto space, people don't understand the gas fees, or even understand it, or even, well, when you swipe your card, well, in the traditional world, that's kind of a gas fee. That's a transaction fee,
Sure.
And it's just a different name in the crypto space. Some people don't understand when they invest in projects and learning how to actually cash out the amount of tax you're going to pay. In a world of decentralization, as I'm starting to learn, is how do we actually partake in benefiting from the taxes? Well, we don't find ways that we're not benefiting traditionally in the ways of the taxes. So when people invest in projects, when they invest in projects, they're looking to understand the tokenomics and how do they benefit from the tokenomics. And when we're talking about wealth, the strategy that I learned is how do we actually benefit from the tokenomics of just the HODL game? Because people are hopefully wishing that their crypto moonshots, by not understanding that there's creative ways to HODL where you're earning passive income of another cryptocurrency. I don't know if you're familiar with many cryptos where you hold one, you get the passive income of another. SafeMoon's a great example where when you hold SafeMoon, you get passive income of SafeMoon. And in the ways of yield farms and just drip nation, just for one, with all these different projects coming out, I'm crazy about this world. So when we were having a conversation last week, you said there's a lot of projects coming out that people are going to go crazy on, and some people are going to unfortunately put their life savings into it, and that's a scary conversation because people are putting their life savings in the hopes of this moonshotting, but sometimes not really doing the due diligence of who's behind the project, the whole vetting process to actually understand. But in a traditional manner, some people don't really know what ways that when they're investing into a stock, when they go to Robinhood, going to Apple, whatever they're investing in traditionally, in the cryptocurrency space, there's a difference. I've learned is when you invest into a real life project that has real life utility, you're going to be introduced to their Discord. You're going to be introduced to their Telegram. You're going to be invited and actually be in a space where you're actually in a group chat and have access to the CEO and the developers to have your questions asked. A person that's investing in a traditional manner, Robinhood or whatever way, they don't typically have access to those conversations. When they have board meetings of where these traditional companies go, it's a quarterly thing. I've sat on board of directors. I've been one of those cats. And one thing I will love your opinion on is, do you think, how do you feel about the transparency in the crypto space when it actually is done right? Because obviously there's a wrong way to do it, the rug pulls, but many people are more comfortable or will find comfort in investing in the traditional route because of the access they would actually have to the CEO and having their question answered more than even going to the traditional route of me investing into a Morgan Stanley or whatever these big traditional manners without actually throwing their names out that we still don't even have the resources to actually know how to get into unless you're going to college and asking the question. You're a financial advisor. You're introductory to learn all that you learn. What was that navigational, path that many people are discovering? Many people learn their wealth is going on Dave Ramsey, going on YouTube. But you went the traditional route, and what does that look like to actually help a person who's curious about gaining their wealth and actually doing it by the books and then being able to transfer that into whatever industry they want to?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is strategy with when most people have an idea of wealth creation, saving money for retirement, however you like to phrase it, they don't have a strategy. All they think of is, I'm going to save some money. My employer gives me a 4% match. I'm going to put in 4%. Now I'm putting in 8%. That's going to be enough. I don't know what kind of funds they're in. I don't know who's managing it. I don't know what those fees are. There's a lot of strategy that goes into actually building something. So how does somebody do that? How do you build a strategy? So the first thing you need to do is you need to understand that your strategy has to be based on here and now. What's happening at the moment? So how much money do I make? Right? How much money do I need in retirement? How do I find out what that number is. So what we do is what's called a time value of money calculation, which essentially says what I'm making right now versus what that amount is worth in 30 years is the amount of money I need per year for my retirement time horizon. Right? How long am I expecting to be retired? So most people run their retirement years out to age 90. That's just a pretty standard process. So we assume that we're going to need, let's just say, at $50,000 a year from age 65 to age 90, 25 years. How much money is that? How much money do we need to have in a bucket to make sure when we turn that faucet on for retirement, it drops out at $55,000 or $50,000 a year, every year, forever, and never runs out of money? That's the strategy. So then you come up with that number. You say, okay, so what that means is from 50,000 to 115,000, that's really what that inflated number is going to be in 30 years. I need to get $115,000 a year every year until I die. And I don't want to run out of money because I can't afford to run out of money. So there's little pitfalls that people don't think about on the way. Like inflation doesn't stop once you retire, right? It continues to go up. Healthcare. Nobody ever thinks that they're going to get sick. Nobody ever thinks that they're going to get old. They don't think about that. They don't think about those conflated costs, right? So what's that going to cost? What if I would have to use part of my money to pay for that? Have I planned for that? Did I get long-term care insurance? Did I even get life insurance, right? Do we get just the basic building block pieces of creating a structure for ourselves to keep ourselves and our money safe? Because that's what those insurances do. They're not, I mean, from an insurance company standpoint, you know, what they do is they're offering you a service, and you're paying them for that service. Right? That's what that is. Really, in your portfolio, though, you designed that insurance program strategy to protect your wealth, right? And the wealth, or not only your wealth, but perhaps what you're leaving behind to others. So we want to make sure that we understand that concept too. So there's a couple of different bubbles there. So we understand that there's a strategy to figure out how much money do we need in retirement. That's a good place to start. So then you have to think to yourself, okay, so I need $2 million. I need $3 million, whatever that number is. That's the number. I can't retire until I hit that number. Now we got a strategy. Okay, so how much money do I have to save? At what rate of return? And for how long? Until I get to that number. It's just a math problem. And that's literally how it is. And you're going to look at this number, whatever that number is, and you're going to say, there's no way I can do that. Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it. First, we can save more money, right? Is your lifestyle inhibiting your ability to retire? Or are you living your retirement right now?
Yep.
I say this to people all the time. If you are spending more money on your car payment than you are on your retirement savings, congratulations, you're already retired. That's how it works. So how much do we have to save, and what's our rate of return? And what needs to go up? Do we need to get more aggressive with our funding, or do we need to save more money? What's the combination of that? That's the thing that people who are not in the finance world don't see. They don't see and what we're talking about is a very basic, very stripped out concept that is just, hey, how do we even make a plan to get where we're going? At that point, we haven't even talked about instruments to use, because everybody wants to talk to you about stocks, and we want to talk about NFTs, and we want to talk about all these things, right? Those are just tools to get us where we need to go. They're not going to get us there alone, right? We need to create multiple pieces of that puzzle, multiple instruments that do multiple things to protect our money here and to grow our money here. It's really important to understand. So when it comes to just the basic struggle that people go through, it's, I don't know anything, so I don't want to know anything, because I feel like the more that I know, the scarier it is. And when I feel scared, I'm not comfortable. And then when I'm not comfortable, I don't make decisions, right? That's what happens, and you kind of get stuck in that little bucket. And you got your little umbrella on, you're worried it's going to rain. Bad news, it's going to rain. It's probably already raining. So if you're not building to understand those basic concepts now, what's going to happen is you're going to get to 35, and then 40, and then 45, and then 50, and you're going to have a freak out moment, because you're going to see people that age that are either A, rich, retiring, or B, very poor and broke. And then you're going to look 10 or 15 years down the road, you're going to see people who are sick and old and broke. And trust me when I tell you, there's nothing worse than having friends and family members who are sick and old with no money, who have not done any planning. Because those people depend on everybody else. They cannot depend on themselves. And they did that to themselves. That's how that works. So starting at an earlier age helps you get ahead of the curve. Having a strategy for how much money do we need to retire with, because that's the goal. The goal is to not work, right? Now everybody wants to say, oh, I want early retirement, or I want to. That stuff is possible, but the amount of savings and money and luck and good rates of return that it takes to get to that, it's not impossible. But it takes a lot of sacrifice. And in the world we're living in today, that's not something that people do anymore. We don't sacrifice things for ourselves, right? If we are hungry, we call, whatever food service, and we want to deliver our favorite sushi to our house, on our doorstep, while we're still in our pajamas. We don't deny ourselves anything. So unless you're willing to really make those big sacrifices, early retirement is generally not something that is achievable, because the amount of money you have to put away is usually going to cut into your lifestyle.
Yep. And you're true, because many people don't understand that. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 15 years old, very crazy cat, went to many different schools, and one day I had an epiphany, and the epiphany happened in math class. I was like, what is this going to do in the real world for me? I came to college to build a business. I created an app. I need to go be out there marketing this app to people. Not here, this math problem. And at that moment, I had a clarity. My purpose is bigger than what this current moment is. And I literally left class and never went back to school until I was invited to school to speak at schools. But I had a transition of growth where the traditional lifestyle was never meant for me. And my dreams are always bigger. And if my dreams are bigger, my hunger is more than others. And as I've had a hunger that was more than others, I've realized many people live in a world of purposely unpurposed until they define what their purpose is. And if your purpose is going to school, getting good grades, working a job to retire, you typically heard that from someone else. But I've ever asked a person, many people I've asked, if money was never an option, what would you want your life to look out? And then people light up because their imagination runs wild. But what I've always learned, our imagination comes with power, because all ideals are power. You're wearing someone's ideal right now with this nice blazer. You're wearing someone's ideal of building a plan, confide, and then sticking to it. To a person who wants to build wealth, prime example, let's say someone is going to build their portfolio in the crypto space, or just a space, build their portfolio, and they want to cash out without having Uncle Sam actually audit their blockchain. Because there's going to be this is transferable, it's all transparent on the blockchain. So there's going to be a day where the government's cracking down as Biden and all they're trying to do in the crypto space, but there's other advocates in the decentralization and the power that gives back to the everyday user. There's a world that wants privacy. There's a world that wants transparency. Where do you see this thing colliding and coexisting together in a centralized economy that we already live in a decentralized economy that people are looking to create and also live in?
Well, I think the two worlds are going to have to coexist. I think they're only going to collide for newsworthy purposes. The reason that I say that, it's kind of like, you ever seen The Godfather?
Oh yeah.
Yes, The Godfather's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big takes from The Godfather is Don Corleone can do things for people that the police can't do, for people that can't go to the police, right? That's the idea of being a gangster, right? I can make money in alternative ways. Now, obviously, I'm not saying be a gangster.
Yeah.
I'm just taking apart from the movie, but the idea is you can do things in certain spaces that you can't do in others. And there's a big freedom of speech thing going on right now, right? There's a big idea that the IRS can know about. By the way, I'm not an accountant. This is not tax advice. They have the ability to audit you for anything over $600 in your accounts.
Yes.
That's a little scary. And I think what happened is people started to rebel against that, just like they do with anything that the government tells you have to do. First of all, no, I don't. Right? I'm my own person. I make my own decisions, and there are certain constructs in place that protect that for me. So what happened was people said, hey, look, these guys are getting a little too handsy in my pocket, right? What do they tax us for? Well, they tax us when the money goes from our employer to our paycheck. We get taxed when we put the money from our paycheck into our bank account. We get taxed when we spend the money
Yep.
on a service, and then we get taxed at the end of the year on the amount of money we make. There's like 6 or 7 different ways that the taxes that they're already making money off of us. That's before we even
Touch it.
spend the money.
Yeah.
So the idea that we can say, you know what, I don't need to do that. I can take my goods and services, sell it to denarius, and then the conversation's over. Let's move on. He's purchasing my goods and services for what he believes the value is, and we don't have to talk about it anymore, right? The finality. So I think what everybody wants is to have total autonomy to be able to deal with who they want to deal with. There are pros and cons there as far as the government is concerned, as far as we are concerned, right? Because it's hard for us to police that because we don't have the construct to police it.
Yeah.
The government wants to police it because of money, and they can say whatever they want. But that's not, it's about money. And for us, it's also about money because we want to keep it in their pocket. So the decentralized space, the cryptocurrency space, the blockchain space, it's so attractive to people because it gives them the ability to see a world where they don't have to go ask Wells Fargo for a loan. And they don't have to go through this giant rigmarole based on their credit and based on their collateral and based on all these things that maybe they don't have, maybe they haven't worked on, right? If you don't have to do that, then I can just go say, hey, Darius, I need a little bit of money, bro. You got anything on hand? You know what? I'll pay you 2% or 3% on your money or 4% on your money. You're like, yeah, man, here you go. That is a lot easier, right, than going to see a loan officer and having to get your tax records and your W-2s and put all this stuff together with people you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Where the DeFi spaces and the crypto spaces allow you to work with people within your own little city. That's pretty attractive to a lot of people. So I think that government likes to posture, government likes to say things, especially individuals, right? They like to grandstand because it gives them a platform to be something, right? But in reality, I think what people really want is to find a way to just be themselves without having other people get in the way, right? That's really what we're talking about. We're just talking about it in a money space where I don't have to worry about you reaching in and putting your hands in my pocket. Or just because you think you're allowed to do that without my permission. That's really what this is about. So I think it's going to be an ever-evolving thing, and eventually I do believe it's going to be regulated in some way. I think they're going to have to regulate it. It's going to get so big, there's going to be so much money, and there's going to be vigilantes out there who are just stealing it. I mean, it's. I was watching a pre-sale the other day where they had to move the pre-sale by 30 minutes, and within that time span, someone had already created a fake coin with the same name, and they lost over $1 million of coins to this person that weren't even real. They were telling them it wasn't real. They were still buying it. You're going to have to police that at some point.
Yeah, you're right. I was on a pre-sale yesterday for 5 hours because they had to wait for the sniping bots and all to actually leave and unpause the sales because they're vetting out which contracts are real. There's such a process to actually, and then I'm getting, as I'm recording myself literally live on YouTube, I'm getting the fake telegram. Hey, we just launched. I'm like, I'm on the Voice AMA right now. They're not. This is not. But people have been duped. I've been duped in the NFT space. As I was,
it's easy to be. That's the thing. It's so easy to be scammed, and you can be so sure that what you're doing is correct. And a lot of times, I think the biggest reason for that is what is the difference between patience and greed?
Yeah.
Right? Are you patient enough to wait for the price to go up a little bit to be sure that you're actually investing in what you're investing in, or do you have to get in right now? If you don't, you're going to miss your opportunity at being a billionaire. The reality of the situation is what we all want is to increase the quality of our lifestyle just a little bit more than what it is right now, right? I mean, obviously you can always dream of the private jets and the private islands and all the big parties and all that fun stuff, but in reality, wouldn't it just be nice to be able to go out on Saturday night and go where you want? Or take a couple of vacations a year with the people that you love and not have to worry about the money? That's what we care about. So I think there's a big cautionary tale there, which is, hey, stay in your lane, right? Don't risk all your money. Don't put it all in the middle if you can't afford to lose it. The biggest problem people have is they don't know how to separate the patience and greed conversation. I want to make sure that I can make the most amount of money, and I can, tell all of the people that doubted me to screw off, right? Those motivations, a lot of times, will get in the way of good sense. So you want to make sure that when it comes to those types of platforms, that you're sure that what you're doing is the right thing, because it's so easy to get scammed.
Yeah, definitely. In the NFT space, it was one of my first ones, and not one of my first. It was my second one, and it was a Discord one, fake Discord. Jumped. Oh, we're launching 2 days early, pre-sale, just 50. No, $500 later, and a lot of gas fees and Ethereum, and then I was like, my intuition started to hit. My mom had called me, because I was trying to explain to Mom, I'm buying an NFT right now. To your mother, who's born in the 1960s, a whole different story. But I was like, don't get scammed. I was like, Mom, it's not a scam. But that was the universe talking, and I didn't listen. Well, I got scammed, and the very next day when I realized, oh, this is not the real one. The project hasn't launched yet. This doesn't launch until Tuesday. Oh, man, that was down the drain. I went and bought another NFT, and I did it the right way because I learned how to do it the wrong way.
Sure.
Because a lot of people are going to get into the space and call it a scam, call it a blah, 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 FUD, FOMO. But I was in control. No one forced me to go down that route. What I thought was what you just said. The greed, being first in, getting in before it sells out, rather than actually see the project actually launch traditionally how I know it typically is launched, where there's a set schedule, they wouldn't adjust the course, and actually doing more of a research of the green check mark, the little blue check mark that they have on the OpenSea. That looks like it was a photo, a screenshot. That doesn't actually look like the green check mark. Let's go vet out other real projects that are successfully launched and actually see what's out there. And when I did my research, I was like, yep, this is a scam, babe, gotta let you know. $600 down the drain, this is what I learned, but I'm gonna go make a YouTube video and walk people through the process so I learn, so they don't actually go down that process. Because
I think that's a big part of this whole conversation, right? Do you know what you're putting your money into? Right? How do you know that?
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're putting your money into, you're running the risk of having exactly the same conversation. And obviously, how lucky are people that you were able to document that and help them through not walking themselves down that path. But when it comes to any investment, whether it's in a traditional sense, whether it's there's a lot of non-traditional investments, even in the traditional world, that people don't know anything about, that are perfectly suited for some type of person. Not everybody, but some. And even at that point, people are dumbfounded when they lose their money, because they have no idea what they're doing. They think it sounds good. They don't do any research at all. I will say, if I could give some advice I would give would be, do you have people in your space that are keeping you accountable to the decisions that you're making when it comes to your investments? It doesn't have to be a financial advisor. Preferably somebody who's in the space, right? Preferably somebody who's a financial advisor, just because they give you a different perspective. If everybody around you is telling you the same thing, that's probably not good, right? That means because that groupthink concept easily can drift into delusions of grandeur, which generally happen when that greed takes over, right? You start thinking about the models and the airplanes and the private islands, and in reality, that delusion is what gets you in trouble, right? So making sure that you have a solid core group of people that don't always have the same opinions, right? That are working in the same space, looking for those pitfalls, understanding how it works, keeping you accountable, you're keeping them accountable to what's happening. It's okay to have differing opinions. You're just trying to keep you safe, right? You're trying to keep yourself safe. We always tell our clients, our number one priority is to protect your money. Number one priority. It's not to grow your money. It's not to make you rich. It's not to get you to buy a private jet. Number one priority is to protect your money. That's it. If I can do that, and I can build some credibility in the work that I'm doing, we grow your money based on a schedule and a plan and strategy, we're doing our job, right? If your friends are telling you they're going to get rich, the goal is to get rich, that's a problem. How many of your friends do you really know that got rich? Everybody sees the Instagram stories.
Yep.
Everybody sees it all in the Discord. Everybody watches the YouTube videos. I'm making $8,000 a day on Animal Farm. I'm making $8,000, blah, blah, blah. In reality, how many of us are really doing that, right? And the best part is, especially what you learn from Instagram and how all these pictures are taken, are those people really successful as they're telling you, right? Are people really just posturing in most cases to get attention because that's what they want?
Yeah.
How often do you see these stories of people that you find out are total frauds, right? And pretending to be this person for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
That's not real, right? So having people in your life that can keep you grounded, understanding the difference between patience and greed, right? And making sure that you are vetting every single project you're putting your money into and diversifying it across different types of platforms. What does that even mean, right, to you? How do you do that? If you don't know those steps first, and you're going to be in trouble. And you're going to learn lessons like the ones that you learned, like the ones that I've learned, like the ones we all learn, right? You can shorten those learning curves, though. By studying, by vetting, by keeping yourself accountable, by having people to keep you accountable. I think that's probably the biggest lesson that we're learning right from this conversation. Putting yourself in a position to be successful means studying. It's having people in your life that are keeping you accountable. It means keeping those delusions of grandeur to a minimum, right? Being patient and not greedy. And understanding that greed is a motivator based on your ego. Right? When you put your ego in, usually ego doesn't get you the same return on investment, right? So I think those are really important points that people need to understand.
Yeah. Ego, edging God out is what I like to say.
Edging God out.
Edging God out. Because if you were true to thyself, you would know thyself. And when one knows thyself, it's like meditate. That's why meditation is a really big thing. I'm a high frequency individual. And I've been screaming to the world, cryptos, cryptos, cryptos. Mainly because of the education and the piece of me learning another way for an individual, whatever, with a lower amount of income, to be able to grow their wealth in a transferable wealth way. If a person is in the crypto space going to gain wealth, let's say they get 50K, how do they actually take that out, cash out, the legal way where they're able to avoid taxes or actually pay taxes on it? In our business, we actually are paying taxes on our cryptos. Our business partner, we don't want them knocking at our door. Great.
We don't want smoke.
No, we don't. So we're actually auditing our entire account right now, and we have two accountants. We have two different companies actually vetting out our crypto stuff, so we actually know what to pay on and what we're paying off. And when I invest into one of these projects, the taxes I actually pay on that, because that's going to Uniswap or going to Binance, whatever that fee is, because there's that fee of Simplex, MoonPay, they have their fee. And so I have to document how much I actually spent, but how much was actually taken away, and document. How does a person, because we're now getting an accountant to do that, a bookkeeper, because I'm good, I'm busy buying it, not learning how to manage it. How does a person actually take that money out, not pay taxes on it, and actually pay taxes on it on those two different avenues?
Yeah, so the first point that you made is the most important point. Do you have a tax professional? Number one priority. If you try to do this stuff yourself, what are the chances that you're not going to do it right?
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty easy to mess this stuff up. So pay the extra money, $300, $500, $800, $1,000, whatever it is, to have a professional go through your money, go through your finances, go through your investments, and understand how each tier is going to be assessed and taxed before you move anything. Before you move anything to cash, before you move anything out of your coins, before you move anything from your traditional investments into your coins and vice versa. Before you move any money, get a tax professional and have a very candid, open conversation with that person about where your money is and what your plans are to take it out. Number one priority, okay? So, as I stated before, I'm not an accountant. This is not tax advice. This is informational purposes only. So when you leave money into an investment over a short period of time, short-term gains are taxed as ordinary income, right? So they go into your taxable bucket, and depending on where your bracket is, that's how they're taxed, right? So let's just say, and for the sake of this conversation, as an example only, I have a coin that let's just call it the coin. I have the coin, and the coin is worth $100. right? And I own 10 coins, and I want to sell all those coins, and I want to put it in my checking account, and I want to go on vacation. Okay, so a couple of steps we talked about before, right? We get to sell that coin, right? What's the price of the coin? Is it up? Is it down? Do we want to sell it if it's down? Probably not, right? Because we're selling at a loss. That's not what we do. We sell when the market is up. It doesn't have to be at the height or the peak, but it has to be up. That's the point, right? So we want to make sure we're selling it at the right time. Also, what are the transfer fees there? What are the fees and taxes we have to pay for each one of those individual companies or platforms we're using? Big question marks.
Yep.
Okay, so and here's the deal. That's going to change. That's going to vary. So there's not going to be any set particular number. That's for you and your tax professional to go through to understand, right? Because you want to understand exactly how you're going to be able to get that money out. It's not how much money we have. It's how much money can we spend, right? So now you're moving that money off platform. Has it been in those accounts for longer than a year? If the answer is no, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that money. If the answer is yes, you have the ability to pay what's called capital gains. Okay? Capital gains taxes are going to be much lower generally than you would pay on your federal income taxes, depending on your income bracket. Now, I would hate to give advice on those percentages because your income bracket may be different than my income bracket, may be different than Bob's income bracket. That doesn't matter. So, number one, what are we going to do? We're a tax professional. We're going to go through all of our stuff. Number two, we're going to understand where the money is, how we're going to get it out, what are the fees and taxes on that through those platforms. Number three, we're going to understand how long has the money been in there, because that's going to dictate how it gets taxed when we move it into our cash accounts, checking accounts, or however we're getting that money offline, right? We're using it in the real world, because that's really what we're talking about, right? So, once we've clarified all that, we understand right away, hey, this is a little more complicated than I thought, right? Because it started off as, you know what, I heard somebody told me that I could make $1 million in cryptocurrency, and I just dumped a bunch of money in there, and I bought a bunch of coins, and I went like this. And now all of a sudden we're realizing, we don't have a strategy. We don't even know how much money we need to retire. Wait, why are we doing this in the first place? Wait, what does it mean to diversify? Why am I losing money as opposed to making money when I thought I was going to make all this money? Wait, how am I going to get any of this money off the platform? Wait, they're going to charge me to move money around between these two? We could have solved all those problems, right? So if you have missed a step there, that's the first thing you need to do. You need to go research that step. Why do I get charged on this? What does that mean that the money's only been in the account for a year, it gets taxed differently? If you are missing a step there and you go, I don't even know what he's talking about, first thing you need to go do is research that. You need to talk to a tax professional about it. You need to do it as soon as possible before you move any more money. So those are the basics of in-network versus off-network. Okay, so let's just say you go through all those steps. You get the money off network. You pay whatever taxes, you pay whatever fees. Now you got the money off network. Now what do we do? Well, first of all, we have a plan for getting the money off network, right? We're not just taking it out. So let's say we do want to take it out to go on vacation. Well, we know we're probably going to pay some sort of tax. Might be capital gains, if we're smart. Might be ordinary income, if we're desperate. That's what I always say, right? We're paying ordinary income, we have to pull it out, we're desperate. We're paying capital gains tax if we have a strategy and a plan, because we're not desperate. So it's pretty important. So we pull the money out. Let's say that we want to spend that money. Okay, there's a lot of ways we can spend it, obviously. You can do it through a checking account. They've got, a lot of these crypto cards now. You can run. There's a lot of companies that will take that money as is, and then of course, what do they do with it? Right? They reinvest it for themselves. They have a strategy for doing that, though. Trust me when I tell you, they're not just doing that because they think they're going to get rich in crypto. So those are a couple of things. So we also understand that you can build platforms in the traditional sense of investing and diversify those platforms, just like you can do in crypto. So if you treat crypto as a diversification bucket, right? It's a new space, there's a lot of money moving around, a lot of ways you can make money. Once you understand each one of those ways, we can use that as a diversity platform. We can do that exact same thing and move some of that money into safer investments, not in crypto, off platform, right? So a lot of people will say, hey, look, I've made these gains and these profits in my crypto world. I want to move that into a more traditional sense because I'm diversifying my money, diversifying my assets, taking that growth. Now move it into some more safe money buckets. A lot of people are doing that. There's a lot of different investment options there. There's a lot of different buckets there. We'll probably talk about that all day. Yeah. The keys first are understanding how does this work, right? What's the best way to do that? In a short curve, you gotta go talk to a professional. Right? I think something that is really interesting in the crypto space is there is an ego built into the do-it-yourself model. I can watch some YouTube videos, I can read some Discords, and all of a sudden I know everything. Well, we know that's not real. We know that's not real because there's people on all platforms, traditional and non-traditional, is making way more money than we are, who have had a strategy way longer than we have, right, and have the ability to move a lot more money than we do. So understanding that you don't know everything, you need to learn from other people who know more than you.
Yep.
It's a huge, huge thing. So that's the basic concept of understanding how the tax system will work. First step is I got to find a tax professional, and that person has to understand all my assets and what my plan is.
Yep.
Once I do that, that person can advise me on when to take the money out,
Yep.
how that money is going to be used and taxed, what I should do with it after. That's the key. That is the absolute key. Don't do it on your own.
I agree with you. That was one of the first conversations my business partner said. So talk to our accountant.
Yep.
And we talked to 3 different people. Hey, we're going to go head first into this in our business. We're going to try. This is a hodl gang. You know, we can't take it out for a year. Great. We're not looking to. We're looking to do this for the longevity of our business. We invest in 2020. Well, we're going to have this business for quite some time. 10 plus 15 years. Let's see where this thing goes. But we had to do our research on, well, what happens if it pops before that year? Well, do you want to have that conversation? Well, let's go find someone who can actually have that conversation, because I've never done this before. And being honest, I've never done this in this world. So, and then when we did our research, not many, some advisors didn't know. They weren't, because it's uncharted territory. This crypto space is an uncharted territory, and not many financial advisors can even have the conversation. I'm in a bunch of groups that many people they hear cryptocurrency and they say, bah, blah, 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 and then they're grumble. And I'm like, no, this is $1 trillion industry. You're missing out on a conversation that people are making millions, making a lifestyle. There's play to earn. There's so many ways that people are. This is a lifestyle. No different than if you're a financial advisor. We're talking about mutual funds. You're talking about that. And if I said, bah, 401ks, 40 years, hold my money for 30, I'm looking to be my own bank. Because I'm in corporate,
Sure.
and they're saying, hey, 401k benefits. I'm like, I'll take the dental. I'll look at the health,
And in some situations, that's the right thing to do.
Correct.
And there's a lot of clients that I have that I advise them, putting your money in your 401k is not the best move for you based on X, Y, and Z reasons. And in some cases, some clients, I'm like, hey, your 401k is without a doubt the best platform for you to use, and here is why. That changes, right? The conversation is, if you don't know what's happening in the space, you don't have a knowledge base, it's really easy to be dismissive. I think we see that not just when we're talking about finance. I think that's the human condition.
Yeah.
When you don't know something, it's not that important.
Yeah.
You don't see something, it's not really happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the financial world, to dismiss the idea of what's happening in the crypto space is a huge mistake. Not because you should be investing in it, not because you should have some money tied up in it, but because maybe there's a place for it in your portfolio. Maybe there's something there that is interesting to you, and maybe that's something you become knowledgeable about. Maybe even a thought leader. Maybe as a thought leader, you have the ability to make some decisions for yourself that put you in a better position down the road for whatever financial reason. That being said, there's a lot of people that just want to throw a bunch of money at stuff because they think that they can get rich, right? The delusion. Understanding that you can shorten your learning curve by keeping people in your life that are going to make sure that you know what you're doing before you do it. Whether it comes with your taxes or as a financial advisor, registered representative, whether it has to do with the crypto space, whether it has to do with the car buying experience, the home buying experience, right? Usually cutting out professionals is not a great way to save money, right? Usually that's a really good way to learn hard lessons. Number one priority, I think, is get lined up with somebody that can have those conversations. There's a lot of financial advisors that I know, and by the way, I was one of those guys who totally discounted the idea of what was happening in the crypto space because of the volatility. Super crazy, right? You see these coins are down 15, 20, 30% a day. and all of a sudden, look, they come right back. Understanding that cryptocurrencies are not just coins, and these new DeFi spaces offer some cool conversations, some cool opportunities, perhaps, for people that are needing spaces in their portfolio, filling up some gaps. How it works, it could really create an opportunity that you haven't seen before. But you want to make sure that you are making decisions with good information. Right?
Yeah. Well, man, that's all I got for it. I appreciate you for coming on the show. I mean, I had a conversation with you last week and changed my entire portfolio to understand nodes.
You did a research though first, right?
I did my own research, lots of my own research, and I said, I went back to my partner. I said I didn't do it wrong, but I didn't do it with more diversity. And so I diversified and reallocated. I'm in a lot of node projects. I'm excited to see I wake up each day with my, now I'm actually farming some of my pairs. And then I'm now have pairs here, Spooky. I'm on spunky_swap here. I'm on, Trader Joe's here. I'm getting coins of
all these names crack me up, by the way.
Literally.
Oh gosh, these guys gotta get out in the sunlight. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and now I'm getting passive income of Joe, and I'm like, good guy. What? These makes no sense. But as I've learned, now I have a portfolio, a little app that shows the break. You have this allocated here, and now you're getting passive income of this. And these ecosystems, I really like pancakeswap, because once you connect your wallet to it, shows your entire diversified portfolios, even the ones that are farmed and staked in different protocols, all in one. Love it, love to see it, and it's a really unique avenue. But I appreciate you for the advice you gave me last week, and the person you connected me with as well, because I had that conversation, and he threw me a node one, universe.money. Universe.money obviously is popping right now, and I got planets that are nodes and they're NFTs that are generating passive income, the whole kit and caboodle. And I tried to go to my friends, yield farms, 1% every single day, my guy. Go get Drip Farm. None of this is financial advice. Use my referral code. And I got one person on my team, my good buddy who's been following me in the journey. He's seen the transition. He did his research and it made sense to him. So I was like, if it makes sense to you, come back and we'll walk you through it. And
I think that's really important. And I also think, I would add to that, if I could, one thing. When you're getting into some of these, I know we've kind of focused mostly on decentralized platforms.
Yeah.
When you're getting on these decentralized platforms, understand that there are ways to diversify inside of that, and there are ways to create a portfolio of investments, or of projects. I shouldn't say investments, of projects that you can gain rewards from in a lot of different ways. There is a patience aspect involved in that. It's very important to get your return on investment first, right? Because without your return on investment, without gleaning money, those rewards out of those projects, you can't diversify into other projects, right? Unless you're just going to put more resources in there. That's not always the best way to go, right? Because if you haven't gotten your return on investment yet, maybe we should rethink our strategy. So make sure we're getting our return on investment first. Make sure we actually diversify into a different project. Maybe that project isn't exactly the same. Maybe it doesn't have the same reward structure. Maybe it doesn't have the same interest structure, right? That's safeguarding our opportunities down the road. So you're looking 5, 6, 8 months down the road, we all have that moment of, oh, well, if I compound this, and oh, if I move it here, and oh, if I get, a little extra on this side, all of a sudden I'm making, $20,000 a day. Everybody has that moment, and it's cool to imagine that, and that's probably really why a lot of people are in this space, is because the opportunity is so big. In a down traditional market, there are a lot of these projects that people are claiming rewards that are paying really well.
Yeah.
That's not always the case, but that's why we have a diversified portfolio, not only in our traditional, but also maybe in our crypto space, right? So understanding how that works together and how it works in each geopolitical, in each economic and tax scheme, right? Is this section of our portfolio paying pretty good right now? I don't know. Is it? Did we put ourselves in a position to understand how it works and when it works the best? When we're taking our money out? What our taxable implications are going to be? Utilizing that information, understanding how it works in a traditional platform, in a traditional box, and then in a non-traditional box. Those keys are critical. So when it comes to these decentralized platforms, just make sure that you're putting yourself in a position where your rates of return come first, right? Your growth strategy comes second, and your profits come third, right? Because bleeding the profits is what we all want.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a growth strategy, right? If you haven't taken your return on investment first, you're going to find yourself in some situations where you're like, I got a little greedy there.
Yep. Hopeful wishing. Hopeful
right.
wishing. And that's what I like to do. My partner is like, when are you going to claim? Why? This is because I have a lot of nodes now, and they're different projects and different blockchains. She's like, when are you going to claim? My business partner even asked me last night, when are you going to claim this? I was like, I have a 3 to 6 90-day plan, but with Animal Farm, I'm like, I'm getting passive income off the BUSD, then I'm just going to cash back and reinvest into whether it's the Animal Farm or whatever project I want to, or just reinvest. And what I'm doing is, I went crazy with yield farms. So now that I have a yield farm over here on Phantom, let's do some over here on AVAX. Let's do some pairs. Yeah, I'll do some drip and some BUSD. I'll add to the liquidity pool. Yeah, I'll drop into the drip garden and yeah, drip liberation. And I diversify in different protocols and different projects. So I'm not just all obsessed on one. We're hoping and hopefully wishing where sometimes they don't work out. I've been rug pull, I've been hearing that, boom, boom, and detaching myself from the result. But I don't put that much. I put what I'm willing to lose. That's why I tell people, put what you're willing to lose, but also do, when you get your return, you either do something with it, or which is the growth strategy, where some people take it out, go to the weekend, I cashed out my Bitcoin last year, took the missus out we went out to Hawaii for about a week, and we were vloggers too, so I was like, this is Bitcoin, guys, whether you believe it or not. And this is Bitcoin when it was at its peak, 72,000, so get gracious. And we cashed out, went to Bitcoin out in Hawaii and lived that lifestyle. And I tell people, I have a job, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I have a space to be, but that doesn't take, the money that I do that is already allocated. It's allocated to my kids' college funds when I have kids, it's allocated to our bills, life, blah, blah, blah. But this was just an avenue, a stream that was just growing, and it was either going to sit, which is where these are hodl game strategies, or I can do something with. Well, let's go do something with it. And it's helped me understand the detachment of, I can just go on vacation and not worry that I'm harming my other projects, I'm harming my other investments or my other obligations, which are much more important than, the kick in the sand. But that kick in the sand didn't have to have that stress that people normally have.
Sure.
People go out and ball, but they got to go back and work. I wanted to go out and ball and just feel that I don't have to worry. That's what many people aim to strive, is like they can just go take their misses out and do your thing, sweetheart. We allocated for this.
That's right.
Like
we made a plan. So I think it's a good point. So a lot of people ask me all the time, how should I be allocated? So what should my strategy look like?
Yeah.
I always use, a really simple rule, right? I call it 30-30-30 rule, right? 30% goes to paying yourself, right? And who do we always pay first? We pay us first, right? Because we're probably going to have to pay somebody else. So we want to make sure we got money. 30% is going to go to reinvestment in our platforms, whatever is making us money. Something that Warren Buffett's business partner said, a lot of people end up watering the weeds and cutting the flowers. And what you should be doing is watering your flowers and cutting your weeds. What is working, what's not working? Let's build up the things that are working for us. Right? Let's cut out the things that are not. So we want to reinvest in the things that are working. Right? If it's working great, let's put some more money in that. Let's reinvest in that. So we'll take out some for ourselves, some for reinvestment, right? And then there's going to be another portion of that we're going to want to put on the side for maybe something new, a new project. Or maybe it's for that tax bill, right? Maybe it's part of our strategy. Understanding that, this isn't all profit, right? Maybe we take some profits. Maybe we put, a bucket on the side where we're using it for those Hawaii vacations. We're using it for those nights out. So we don't have to worry. That money's been allocated. That money's been moved. So develop a strategy for how you're going to put your money, or where you're going to put your money and how you're going to pull it out. And also, what are the percentages for that? What are you using it for, right? Because if your strategy is to really get wealthy, we're building wealth here, whether it's in a traditional platform, cryptocurrency platform, or real estate platform. You don't take all the profits for yourself and put it in your pocket. That's not real, right? You're using certain portions of that money so we can continue to grow, continue to build. We're also taking some money for ourselves, and we also know that we're going to have to cut a check sometime to the IRS, right? We want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves there. So build a strategy around that.
Perfect. Well, appreciate you for coming on the show. It's 11:12, so I want to respect you for your time. So yeah.
My life different, my pipe different, my fight different, my time different, my mind mind different, my grind different. I ain't different. You can never make it out the trench. I ain't different. Made it to a starter from the